So, hey everyone, it was another mild week for me. I didn't do a ton, but the media I got to watch was a bunch of fun. It had its ups and downs, but I'll just go over it. And that'll be about it for this week, because I genuinely, once again, didn't do much, and I figure there's only so many times I could say that. Now, probably the first thing I want to go over is that I did read a few light novels for the first time in a while. So I read 3 volumes of this one called The Water Magician, which is the most basic title imaginable, right? But it basically boils down to a guy gets isekai'd, tries hard, and then gets strong, and then he has funny social interactions as the funny strong guy who doesn't know anything about the actual world. So the big appeal of this to me is kind of hard to place, because I do really like stuff where... Sorry about that. I really like stuff where there's like training arcs and people who just get obsessed with sort of the bullshit they're on. This main guy basically loves playing around with magic. And I think there's a lot more he could have done, but there's only so much you could do when you're an isekai writer, right? Like, of course he's gonna do like he's gonna learn how to fight good with his magic. Whatever. I could take it because I love this stuff. I think it's like the same appeal as any number goes up sort of game to me. Like you all already know, I play stuff like Diablo, I play stuff like RuneScape. I live that way. So it pisses me off when light novels use stuff like stat screens and all that. But when they mess up with, or not mess up, but when they just implement it as like, oh, they're just practicing magic so they could be a better magician. And even if they say some bullshit like, oh, I could cast a spell faster, or like, it's like stuff like that, I can still mess with it as long as it's not stat screen bullshit, right? But talking about that really makes me want to revisit stuff I've already read where the magic doesn't feel like a system, if that makes sense. Where rather than magic being this like codified thing so that they could power scale their characters against each other or something like that, where it's more magical. I feel like that's kind of something that I'm thinking about a lot with regard to why I like this series and why some other series don't really hit for me. The big thing, I guess, is that there are different power systems in fiction, and people online like discussing them. I used to read a lot of Brandon Sanderson books, and I've also watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so it's like I know people love the medals or whatever, people love the JoJo stands for different reasons. I don't think that, like, for me, either of those are necessarily, like, good or bad. I think stands are really fun when they're done well. And there are things I really like about what I remember of like Brandon Sanderson's bullshit. I think it's important to me that magic is expressive of the character in some way. And I don't really know a better way to put that, but if what they do doesn't tell you about who they are, then like you're just on some power scalar bullshit. Get out of here. Is sort of where I'm at with it. So that's just kind of me having a weird niche opinion, maybe, but I like it when magic feels like, I don't know, analog. Like it has more to it than just being like a high value or a low value or it's fast or slow. It has more to it than that. And I think with the Water Magician, obviously it's already playing into my biases by having a training arc right at the start of the series. I love that initial bit of like weak guy gets strong. This has trapped me into many series that end up being bad after the first volume. By being bad, I mean they just have the guy already be strong, so it's like it doesn't appeal to me anymore. But the Water Magician has my main guy learn how to use his magic. He keeps trying to get stronger, and most importantly, he's just a funny little fucker. I I think that's important for the sort of main character to just keep being a character instead of just becoming some sort of like boring character. But I think it's like in The Water Magician, the main character faces a lot of mental barriers about magic as opposed to like, oh, I just need to rank up to C rank. He doesn't really go through that, and that makes it a lot better for me. Ranks and stuff are fine in games, like ranks, skill levels, whatever the heck, but they're in games for a reason, because I'm going to be honest, like, analog progression in a game doesn't feel as good, generally speaking. It feels really nice when you get, like, a new level of an ability, and it's, like, significantly different, but if you get, like, really granular progress in a game, it feels really weird. Like, I'm gonna be honest, in RuneScape, I never cared about the difference between getting, like, I don't know, 96 and 97 attack level, if that makes sense. But, I guess a comparison would be like if you ranked up a spell in World of Warcraft Classic, then that's like a much bigger difference. I guess with my pre-existing interests that you already know about, I could have just brought up Diablo again, but we're sticking with that. But I think the two big things that I'd probably say seem important to me right now are definitely like the expressiveness of the character through what they do, and the sort of feeling of it, feeling like it's not just like some bullshit that I don't care about. but this will be a lot easier to talk about. I read some other bullshit today. It was called Yashiro Kun's Guide to Going Solo. And it starts off fun enough, and it's a little bit preachy, and the vibes are like pretty alright, so I read through it. It was like a 1-volume thing with a volume of after story, and hey, that sounds great to me. Like, I like a short read. So I got through that, and the big problem was, how do I put this? It just gets really clearly like a conservative and like traditional social norm sort of text. And it starts off with like the afterword of the original scenario, which is like half of the first volume. Because half of the first volume is the like main scenario, and half of it is like bonus chapters that reveal another character's perspective afterwards. And hey, that's great. But they start talking about how the school cliques are like particularly American partisanship, and how partisanship has rise as liberalism has progressed. And I'm like, what are you talking about here? At least with my current political knowledge, that it was not like exactly faith inspiring, but I still went ahead and I was reading and I was like, okay, I think this romance is cute enough. It's a little bit like wishy-washy, and it's a little bit like, oh, the girl is fragile and likes to read, and the guy likes to do all sorts of things. Okay. And I have to be honest, thinking back on it now as I'm reading like what I wrote before, I just realized that like I don't think the main character has any like actual character flaws in like any significant way. It's like it's never a problem with him that generates conflict. It's like an issue with somebody else's beliefs. And now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, I should have thought about that more sooner probably. But it's just how it is. Because like they go from talking about the whole thing with American liberalism, and they start quoting Yukio Mishima, known super conservative freak, rest in piss, bastard. And then they do all sorts of things like say movies can't have strong male leads anymore because of feminists, and a few other things that really just put me off. It really felt like by the prologue to the second volume, the after story volume, that it really was just like espousing traditional social norms and saying like people should just get along and have good school lives and then join society and have kids. Like, all of your teenage problems are fake, and don't worry about it. Just live your life and follow your interests, and then have kids. Is it's like the conservatism really felt like it shined through, as like these 15-year-olds are considering like marriage, and like they're moving in together and everything, and it's like, what are you talking about, dog? You have got to calm down a little bit, because it's like, I like that kind of corny stuff, because let me tell you, I was a cringy like 15-year-old, right? I'm not afraid to admit that. And there are times where like I would daydream about that sort of stuff with my partner at the time. And you know, the thing was, the second you seriously think about that at that age, you're freaking crazy. It was like a daydream for me. I didn't even think about it as like a reality. I was like, this is something that could happen. But it's crazy. It's weird feeling. I didn't like the vibes as soon as we got into Volume 2. And Volume 2 is where they started quoting Mishima, and everything went crazy. So, with the whole text complete and all that in mind, it felt really unsatisfying to me. I really like part of what it does. Probably the most fun part of it to me is having the main character's girlfriend be a secret, and then reveal that when the girls he's been talking to ask him if he has a girlfriend. It is a really funny bit. And that really won me over in the first part, but then starting with that afterward in Volume 1, it really went downhill. The line the author makes between partisanship in like actual like political parties and school cliques is what loses me a lot, in combination with his just like extremely like Shinzo Abe feeling views. I'm sorry. I wish it was different, but they really lost me bad. But moving on from that, I do have 2 movies I want to talk about, and then that'll be about it. I got to watch 2 fun movies this week. First one was Friday the 13th, Part 2. It's still probably like the core of the Friday the 13th series to me, like even more than Part 1 was. It feels like it's definitely the one I would recommend to someone who wants to watch a good movie. As far as like somebody who likes slasher movies anyways. I would have other movies I would recommend first, do not worry. But it's like, it's fun, it has a good cast. I like the way the characters interact and how everything goes wrong. And it's like, the cast is fun, and the way it spirals is fun, so that makes it a good slasher movie. Just saying, like, I watch a lot of slasher movies for the first time this year, including some controversial ones like Black Christmas and Silent Night, Deadly Night. So, having a bit more context of, like, the slasher genre, like Black Christmas being, like, one of the inspirations for it, and, Silent Night, Deadly Night being, like, one of the most controversial slasher movies at the time during the Reagan administration. It really just makes me think, wow, Friday the 13th, not as good as I remembered when I was a kid and I had only seen like 10 movies total. My brother watched horror movies and I would watch with him sometimes. He would just tell me to cover my eyes whenever they were having sex. But the original series is just like not as good as I remember, and I definitely feel like Friday the 13th is probably the one that has the least sauce to me, but is probably the most that feels the most like a slasher to me. I don't know how to put it. It feels like this is kind of the basis of the genre, even more than Halloween is to me, even though Halloween is like considered the start of it, if that makes sense. Okay, that's enough of that though. Let's have something simpler to talk about. Cradle to the Grave, starring DMX and Jet Li, was awesome. I really liked this movie, and the baddie is played by Mark Dacascos, who I saw for the first time earlier this year in Crying Freeman. And I really enjoyed this movie. I forget if it was on the Wikipedia page or something else. I saw that there were reviews saying it was like derivative or formulaic or something. But when you got DMX doing like a chase scene on a 4-wheeler with his own music playing over it, I'm all in, dog. I think that is so much fun. And probably the closest like major comparison I can make is comparing it to the Fast and Furious franchise. And I'm gonna be honest, this is better than like almost all of those movies. So I'm really happy I got to see this one because I like that whole sort of vibe in a movie, but this just felt like it was pretty well executed for what it is, and it was a lot of fun for me. Also, I realized something funny, which is just that Jet Li hasn't been in a movie in like 5 years, and I think the last one was like the Mulan movie, and it's like I get that he's like I believe 60 years old now, but like I didn't expect he would take that few jobs, so I was really surprised when I was looking at his filmography. Just an interesting little thing I noticed. Now, the last thing is, I did cook menemen for the first time this week. It was really good, and I think I could have added 6 eggs instead of 4, but I just followed Chef John's recipe with everything, and having this like very rich tomato dip basically that you just eat with bread is very nice. And it doesn't reheat the best, but it reheats well enough that I'm still really happy with it. It seems like I would like it more if I was making it for a group, though, just because of portioning with canned tomatoes being such a big can normally. Um, in the summer, as we get more ripe tomatoes, it should be easier to scale up or down. But then for the rest of the year, I'll still have to figure out like a way to use it up if I'm cooking for just myself. But that is honestly everything I had, and this went way longer than I expected since I went off script a bit. I'd already thought about everything I said a lot. It's just figuring out my actual opinions on these things is so tricky because Water Magician was just like such a. It felt really basic, but it didn't feel bad. And then I thought there were things that I liked about the other series I've talked about book wise. I forget what it's called already. I'm not gonna bring it up. But the way like a somewhat basic fantasy series can hit so much better than like a series that actively is depicting like very conservative social beliefs. It really makes me feel very self-aware that oh yeah, I just don't think I could politically align with people who believe the things that this author seems to believe, just getting them from the text. And maybe they're not actually politically conservative, but their writing definitely is. So I'm just going to cut it there. Otherwise, I'm going to keep rambling. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week and take care.